So hello and welcome to Mad AI. This is the Madison Artificial Intelligence support group. Um, so if you're trying to understand anything with artificial intelligence, you're at the right place. So we can talk later. The essence is that Madison Artificial Intelligence group is a product of the fact that we have a whole bunch of people working in the space and we really need a support group to work together to like understand what each other are doing so we can all learn from our mistakes, so learn from our joys as well. And that's where we are. And I like to start the discussion around what everyone is working on and such and their background. So I'm just going to do that really quick. And if anyone wants to share, if you're remote, please let me know via the chat channel. Otherwise, I will also be handing out a mic to anyone that is interested in sharing what they're working on. Would anyone want to share what they're working on?
Sure.
All right, beautiful.
All right, everyone online and here in person, I'm Derek. I'm doing a lot of work with data management and using large language models to parse data, and also paired with search engines, tutor myself and write code. So
Cool, very cool.
Well, hello. My name is Alex Samuel. I'm an attorney. Right now I'm working on just drafting policies and procedures having to do with data storage in my office, and I'm interested in learning more about AI stuff. So
Can I sit on this side or?
You can sit wherever you would like.
Okay, thank you very much. Hi everyone, I'm David. I'm a senior engineer at AWS. I build a chatbot service, so do a bunch of other fun stuff.
So you said chatbots?
Yeah, I would build a service called AWS Chatbot.
Oh, got it. All right. Anyone else? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So I'm here to both say thank you for attending and thank you for being here, but also to introduce you to this concept of test-driven prompt engineering. And if I could just see a show of hands on who has used prompts or chat GPT or, all right, everyone. In the audience, anyone out there that has or has not? Okay. Hit the like button. Here we go. So anyway, anytime you're entering in any information into like a chatbot or whatnot, it's part of a prompt. It's not the full prompt, but it's a part of the prompt. And we are going to do a little bit of a talk about how that prompting happens, and then a little bit about how we can learn more. And we just had a couple of people show up. Welcome. Please sit down and enjoy. I was just starting out with introductions. Anyone, do you have anything that you're working on in artificial intelligence that you might want to share with the group? This is our AI support group, Mad AI. So if I hope you're in the right spot. Okay. Oh, okay. Do you have anything that you want to share? Or, so you're part of you do business analytics? Okay. Congratulations. Welcome. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to just move along here and go through. So we're really talking prompt engineering. It's a term that I personally don't really like. And the reason being is, what are we really doing with prompt engineering? We're creating text, but like we're also asking questions and trying to get answers back from those. So like, is that really engineering? I don't know. And like, I would like other people to let me know, but like, I guess this is engineering because we're trying to in the sense that we're trying to riff on something and come up with something that's a little bit better. And if that's engineering, okay, I can get behind that. However, I think it's really not great engineering if that's what you're doing. Like if you're riffing on something, that really sounds like you're more tinkering, and then the better term might be hacker as opposed to like an engineer. But like that's me and whatnot, which is why I'm more interested in like understanding really, can we do better for engineering? And for engineering, I'm going to look at software engineering as a background, right? So software engineering used to utilize something called like the waterfall method. And it's still used actually. But like this process was to like take a problem and break it down into smaller parts. And then hopefully it all goes stellar on how your initial plan is to like break those parts into smaller parts and then build it back up into a bigger thing. The problem with that is that you end up with huge releases that you don't know if they're going to be able to be on time. So you end up with scope creep, and you end up with bugs that you introduce into your system. There's also security vulnerabilities that you end up introducing or creating along the way. There's just a lot of things that you do, and this was done with software engineering for a long period of time, which was really, in my opinion, more hacking. And I'm guilty of it myself, right? I've done software development, and I put together things and just tested it after the fact or as I'm doing it, and it wasn't great. Now, as I progressed in my own path in life, I've come to see the light of test-driven development, which is really to start to put, which really involves putting together use cases and um, unit tests as your core development idea. So you really put together those unit tests and the tests ahead of time, so you can build your software to the tests, and you also know that the tests are going to be the things that you're going to be validating against. So that does is it shifts the paradigm from building something that is, you know what you're going to build, but like you don't know all the pieces, to how do I validate that and test it and test it. So you really get into a far more rigorous development cycle once you move into the test-driven development cycle. And why is that important? Well, it's important because now, as we learn more, we can add new tests to the development cycle, which is called we use continuous development, continuous integration as a methodology to test the software. So as we find new things to test, we can add those in along the way and continuously validate that our software did not introduce, that we didn't introduce new bugs into our software as we're doing development. So like I talked about some of this. So we talk about the code quality, we get bug detection, enhanced security, and in many ways, we also have a better scope of understanding of how our costs are going to be. Like, are we going to, as we develop our software, do we have a idea how much this is going to cost and how long it's going to take? Well, as we build our test cases, we start to understand, because we know what our test cases are and what we have to build against, as opposed to just trying to engineer something to take into account everything. If we know what the test cases are, those are the ones we take into account and build and riff from there, which really shifts our paradigm, right? It shifts us away from like big releases that have all these features, not bugs, features, into a more reliable and secure process development, which really is what we want, right? We want to have software that's more robust and secure. And that is really the core of what we're trying to do with test-driven development. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about prompt engineering, right? So prompt engineering is very similar to software engineering in the sense that we're probably about 20 years behind, right? If you think about like what prompt engineering has been, it's been a lot of let's build a whole bunch of use cases, break it down into smaller pieces, and then do the waterfall method, and hopefully everything comes together magically. I don't know if that really works that well. I've seen it not work well. We know it's not worked well in the past in software development. So why do we think it's going to work different with AI? And that's really the question here, right? Is we've been doing a lot of work with prompt engineering, basically doing exactly what we were doing 20 years ago before we had continuous improvements and continuous deployments, right? CI/CD pipelines, and we've been just doing trial and error, which is exactly this. It's time consuming, it's costly, it's subjective, prone to errors. We do not have hypothesis testing, and the thing that probably bothers me most is everyone is, if they can get one or two things out of AI, LLM, they become an LLM expert. They become an AI expert. And I know so many AI experts that are just like, wow, hey, I did this and now I'm an AI expert. If you looked at LinkedIn, everyone's an AI expert. So like, it's frustrating if you've spent time and energy in this domain space to see how much people have spent just doing so little, but yet they become so knowledgeable magically. So in essence, what we have here is, this is a rough idea of how our development cycle has been, right? So we have our prompts go into the LLM in the middle, we have our output, and then we just keep riffing on this, right? Until at some point we hit completion. You'll notice the white line that's done outside. It's not connected to anything. And that's done on purpose, because we never know when we're complete. We never know when have we hit our test cases, because we don't have them, which is exactly our challenges in prompt engineering. We have a trial and error system that is so slow and inefficient. And for the amount of money that is being spent on prompt engineering, you'd think we'd be able to do better. We're getting there. But it takes time. And so how we're going to get there is, I'm going to get there, but we really need a better way to track our efficiency and we need, in essence, we're data people, right? If you're an AI, your background is data. So we should be using data to make decisions. And that's where I'm standing right here. And that's why I'm giving this presentation is really, I want to look at this and say, can we do better by using data to make better decisions? Which is why anyone that's built LLMs can understand this picture, or built with them LLMs understand this picture. So I've been there myself, and that really, I feel like this really kind of gets to it, because it's like I literally just changed the temperature of one of my LLM prompts, and now I have a completely different answer. And what happened? Like, it's the same prompt, or I use I use one prompt and then I replace it with a different prompt, and then I put the prompt back. No changes, but like I get wildly different information. I'm like, what the heck? How is this possible? So been there, done that, understand. So ideally, when I'm thinking of creating prompts, right, it would be really nice to have test cases. And like, how can we validate these test cases, right? So the having test cases allows us to do much more rapid development. And because now we can validate the test cases, and we can do unit testing in most cases. So regression tools now become available, right? If we start thinking about test casing, as we start thinking about prompts, we would want test cases because test cases are what validates what we're trying to do or whatever we're trying to build. So we can score that. And the last thing I really want to point out here is I feel like I'm not going insane. Because if I have test cases or if I have some data, I can prove that I'm not really crazy, that this LLM didn't just hallucinate on me, which is why test-driven prompt engineering is so essential as we move forward. And test-driven prompt engineering is really following the same principles of software development and software engineering. Is really focusing on the core concepts of test-driven development, right? Creating our cases first, and then building up our prompts from that test case. Which is why you guys are here. Right? That's what you want to hear. You want to hear, like, okay, this sounds great, Chris. Like, thanks for letting me know everything I already knew. But like, give me something tangible, right? I'm getting there. Calma. So as we get through here, we really are looking at the software. I'm sorry, I realized like the develop is with a T, and I clearly used an AI agent to generate this, and and I did not use test-driven development. So exactly. So we can see exactly the issues, right? Which is why I'm talking about something called promptfoo today. And promptfoo is a comprehensive tool set that is used to generate test cases and test your prompts as you're proceeding on your prompt journey. And it's an engineering journey, not a hacking journey. Because now you can actually, as you create these test cases, you can test and you can validate and you can score. And you can make data-driven decisions on what you're trying to do. It's something we haven't been able to do before. I was working on a project, I can't talk about the company, but I was working on a project recently where the company was asking me to make the LLM produce better results. My first response was, what does better mean? And then the follow-up was, how do we score or test that? And both of those answers were crickets. So that really led me to believe that it's not just this company that I was working for, but this is a much bigger problem, which is why I'm giving this talk right now. Is really, as I'm looking at this, like, how do you define better? You can only define better if you have data. And you can only have data if you have something that you can test, right? So like if you're seeing a path or like if you're seeing a theme in this, it's really about we need data and we need test cases in which to make decisions, which is where promptfoo comes in, right? It allows us to create test cases, and we can utilize that to generate our prompts, and then we can evaluate the prompts. And we can actually utilize LLMs to evaluate the prompts, or we can use heuristics to evaluate the prompts, or we could do a combination. And all of this is an open source tool. Does it have bugs? Yes. Like, it's open source. Of course it's going to have bugs. Does it use best software development practices for CI/CD? I'm not going to comment on that. But it does do something that I have not seen before, is it gives us the ability to score our LLMs on a test case by test case basis. And that's what I'm going to showcase here in just a moment. But that's sort of why I think we all need this tool set, our tool case, is something that can help us facilitate testing of our prompts as we're going down the prompt journey. So again, getting back to what is promptfoo. Promptfoo is an LLM testing framework. Here's the website, promptfoo.dev. It's an open source project that is currently on GitHub. Promptfoo.dev will get you to the open source GitHub repository as well. Early on, I had a link in the presentation to a Docker container that I've built. If you're familiar with dev containers, I also have a dev container that you can check out from GitHub, from the repository as well, that contains all the things that I'm going to showcase here. But like the dev container that I have, it's just it's all working in just a moment to show you how that happens. But really, promptfoo, the big thing about promptfoo is it allows us to iterate faster and have scoring on what we're understanding. Scoring on the data and understand what those results mean. Because now when I ask a question, I can answer back about like, is this better or not? I can quantify, make it better. A little bit more about foo. It uses Python bindings written in Node.js, but it has other bindings to Go, Python. Configurations are based in YAML, but you can use Python to generate configurations, or you can even embed that within other applications as well. One cool feature of promptfoo is that it has a whole laundry list of LLMs that it can talk to out of the box. So ChatGPT is clearly one of the ones that people can utilize, but I think there's about 50 or so that you can connect to. So you can use an open source Llama, Grok, Grok Llama, Grok, Mistral. I'm going to showcase those here shortly. But all these open source models, no problem. And then with some other features, you can front it with a proxy and then utilize that as well. So there's lots of options to utilize different models. So here's just an example of utilizing promptfoo. So we use prompts, and so just kind of walk through this with me. We want to create a couple songs, right? We want to create for a song. How would we test this? Well, we might say, okay, we wanted to create a love song or a pop song or something. Well, what are the characteristics of those? Some might say like a pop song just doesn't make any sense at all. Like some say it's trying to tell a story. This is the part that we get to define the test. We get to build that. So by building our own test case, we get to create our own song along the way, and that's part of the fun of what we're trying to do. Anyway, so just kind of walking through that test case, I'm not going to showcase building a music song. Okay, that's not part of what I'm going to showcase. But what I am going to showcase is right here. I'm going to keep this up for just a moment in case you guys are interested, and it's going to be up later too on Mad AI. But the first one here, that's the dev container, where you can access the, if anyone has used VS Code and dev containers, that actually has the repository with the dev container already built and the code that I'm going to give the demonstration in right there. So if you have VS Code, just get a clone that repository and cd into that directory, type code dot, and then when it says, do you want me to reopen this in a dev container, you click yes. The other one here is I have a Docker that's already pre-built, and it has a promptfoo already. So the thing that you're going to need, though, is before you at home or here, if you want to do any of these demos, you're going to need to make sure that you set the API keys. So you're going to need an OpenAI key and a Grok key. Now, this is just for the demos. Yeah, I do have a question. Yes. What's a grok key? Okay. Does anyone know what grok is? Can I, I'm going to give you a phone and you can tell him what grok is, okay?
I don't have a prepared answer, but Grok specifically is it's not a TPU, is it? So basically built a very customized piece of hardware, system on a chip type thing. I think originally for more generalized AI purposes, but is now specifically good at running LLM models. So you get almost instantaneous responses. I think, what was it, Llama 3 runs on it pretty much instantly now. And now they expose this as a API that you can just use.
Exactly. So grok is an on silicon accelerator for artificial intelligence. So you hear about GPUs being used a lot in this field. Grok has its own custom silicon that does inferencing, so the ability to respond to a model that's loaded into the system really, really fast. It's like, I want to say 1 million times faster than a GPU inferencing. It's insanely fast, and it's relatively cheap. So here, I'm going to stop sharing this, and now I'm going to go and let me. Okay. Could you read that again, please? Oh. Okay. I did not know that was something that was a problem. Okay. Let me. I honestly have no idea how to fix that. Oh, okay. So they're venting? Adapting. Beautiful. This is why I love working with this group, because some small problem becomes fixed relatively easily. All right, so let's go back here. We're going to go into. So I talked before about VS Code, and here is VS Code. I'm running our dev container called promptfoo, the one I just advertised just a moment ago. And this is literally the place in which you build up your prompts with promptfoo within the YAML file. Now, this is just an example, okay? There's lots more examples, and this is just meant to be a primer. I'm not trying to do a deep dive into every nook and cranny of promptfoo. I just want to like get the juices flowing so everyone can be like, you know, this was really interesting. Let's talk. Let's dig more and start playing around. So I've got a couple demos here. One is answer this as concisely as possible, and the question is within the test, and we have a variable called question. That question, it has to be the same, is up here, right? So that question is, what is the capital of France? And my assertion right here is Paris. So I'm going to go ahead and run promptfoo. I'm going to hide that. Eval-c demo1. And now this is going to, it reads through this, and you can see how fast that was, by the way. Like, grok is extraordinarily fast. And I get 3 failures. And I'm like, well, what the heck is that? Really? I thought it was Paris. Well, let me go to view, and then here I'm going to move this. And for those watching at home, I'm going to do a change here. I'm going to move this to this window. And here we get to see the outputs. And you can see we expect the output to be Paris, but it responded with Paris with a period. Not concise. Well, it is concise, but it's including punctuation, right? And we're testing 3 different language models. So we're testing GPT 3.5 Turbo, Mistral, right? And Llama 3. I'm honestly not sure why Mistral is so chatty about a concise answer about what is the capital of Paris, but it did in fact say like the capital of France is Paris. Now, if that's the concise answer for Mistral, I think I'm going to have to refine my my prompt, and we can do that, right? So we'll go back. I'm going to change back home. I'm going to move back to the window. You know, I might just share my entire screen here so you guys can all see everything I'm dealing with, right? And now we're going to move away from that. I'm having way too much recursion. All right, so let's go back up here. Answer as concisely as possible. I'm just going to put periods. I'm going to see what happens, right? This is part of what we do, and this is why we do test-driven, right? Like, does that answer the question? So let's go back, and we're going to run this again. There's lots of things that could happen here. And here, we're going to hide that. And we're going to just run this evaluation again. And what do we see? We see 1 pass. Llama passed. This. So now we've got the nice thing about promptfoo is you have a web interface as well as a command line interface. So I get to see away. I just refresh the page and I get, so Llama 3 passed 100%. The others, I am less happy with both, honestly. They both say exactly the same thing, except Mistral, which I said without a period, still included a period. Like, what? Are you kidding me? This is the part where I was always feeling like I was going insane. But I have a test now. I can verify now. And I can look to see which large language model is doing better with my prompt. I can now also refine based on the large language model itself, which I was not able to do before. I don't want to beat this dead horse, and I want to continue going to the next one, but I just want to showcase you, like, this is just the differences of large language models. Like, what's as precisely as possible without period, what is the capital of France? I only got Paris out of Llama 3. I got Paris out of GPT-5, but with a period. And then when I told it not to put a period, it didn't include a period, but it gave me the capital of France is Paris. Like, it didn't just tell me concisely, it added a whole nother sentence. So really interesting, right? When you start looking at this, like, wow, now I can actually I can test and I can look at it and I'm not going crazy because I can score it. And this use case was clearly 2 out of the 3 just failed. All right, so let's go to the next one. Go to demo 2. Here, we're going to do something a little bit different with our prompting. We are going to change our process and create a file. So we actually, this is kind of interesting because now, instead of using the YAML file, we can do file includes. And that's really, really important because now you can build up these YAML files and their testing frameworks where you're not based in the YAML itself. You can create and expand and however you see fit. So for example, the Mad AI prompt, we're going to here and look at that. What does that say? That says, you are a fact finder only interested in a simple one-word answer. Answer when possible. Do not end with any punctuation. Does that sound similar to what we might have been asking? Just the question. Right? So our system role and then our user role is just answer the question. So here we actually have a little bit more control over what we're trying to do with our prompt. Right? We actually have a system prompt and then a user prompt. And we're doing the same thing as before. I actually gave ChatGPT a 0.1 for temperature. Fun. And now, hold on. That's this one. I'm sorry. And I ask, what's the capital of Peru? I'm hoping it just gives me the word answer, Lima, but I don't know. Let's find out. Oh my God. I got these successes? Wow. I don't want to mess with this. Okay, let's begin. 3 successes. You know what? Now I can actually keep running the test. And if I get a failure, I realize there's something on the large language model that's not happy, that changed between. But I can test and validate this now. I can continuously run it, and you can use these tests and just run them over and over again. And if you get different answers, then there's something that you need to change in your prompt. I'm talking for things that are testable. So it. Right. Well, this is where you run it multiple times. You just continuously run it over and over and over again. And then if at some point, as a probabilistic system, you say, okay, I don't know if I can run this anymore, and it will come back with an answer that's different. You're right. It's a non-deterministic system, right? Large language models, by definition, are probabilistic. So, and we're trying to get a deterministic answer out of a probabilistic system. So it is inherently a little bit suspect. But if we can do this over and over again and we can have repeatability, I think we're in a better spot than we were even before, for sure. So it does. I'm not going to go into the whole details. Again, there's a bunch of other things that are involved here, but yes. And you can include that into your Python code to like just be a part of your CI/CD pipeline, and your CI/CD pipeline might kick off promptfoo to run. Might do 50 assertions of the same thing. So, great question. Thank you. Exactly. So now we're going to prompt 3. So I'm going to change this up a little bit. Instead of saying what's the capital, I'm going to suggest we're a vacation plan. And we're trying to do some local guide knowledge and understand the location. And plan me a 5-day vacation someplace nice. Okay? But not too expensive, okay? I'm going to go to Madison, Wisconsin. Someplace that I know that I can test, actually, honestly, which is part of the reason why I wanted to do this. So demo 3, and we're going to do them up. So here, I ask it a couple simple questions, right? Does Madison, Wisconsin, does your 5-day planner contain the word capital? Because one thing that's kind of quintessential to Madison is the state capital, right? Another thing that's quintessential is the university. Now, there's lots of other things that are part of this city, but like I might argue like 2 core aspects that are literally split by just over a kilometer is the Capitol and the university, and it's split by State Street. So downtown Madison is really, those are 2 big things that I would expect to be in a planner of some sort. So I expected to say University of Wisconsin or the Capitol. I had 1 success. Are you really kidding me? And Llama 3 came up with the best answer here. Let's move on. We're going to look at the evaluation. And we can drill down and see what the prompts, what came back. All right. So, well, that's interesting. It does say visit the state capitol here. Oh, you're right. So, you can. In fact, you can. So within promptfoo, great question. So we do have our determinant, right? So we have a contains, we have equals, JSON, we have lots of different options here. We actually have Python, right? So we can create our own regexes within this. And likewise, we can actually pass it to a webhook. So if you want some other method to like answer what we're expecting, we can do that as well. So, all right. So now you see why it's important to make sure that you have good test cases, right? So one of the 3 passed. All right, let's move to demo. Let's move on to the number 4, because I want to keep this entire process under 45 minutes, and I'm at 43 now. So, all right, 4. Here we go. What are we looking at for number 4? Let's close this up. We're going to stay with the vacation planner, but we are going to use an LLM to evaluate our vacation plan. Now, what the heck, Chris? Now you're adding ballistics on probabilistics? What? What are you doing? Yeah, I'm kind of crazy like that. Sorry about that, guys. All right. So our test case, we have got 3 test cases. We first want to know, did our 5-day vacation plan come back with a 5-day vacation plan? Right? Very simple. It's a little bit harder to get information out of a deterministic to say if I had a 5 plan. I could parse, absolutely. But if I ask an LLM, it's pretty good at that. It probably can tell me. Next one is provide me with equal parts history, showcase cultural events, and outdoor activities. I did not include that at all in any of the prompts. So if I want that, I can say, okay, this is what I want. This is my test case. How to prove this? Showcase these events, and I can change my prompt if I need to. The other one is mention Henry Vasu. Okay. So these are all being done as an evaluation within the LLM itself. And we can go back and look at the evaluation, and we can see our passing rate. So it did. And for each assertion, yes. So Mistral and Llama 3 did not mention Henry Liazu. I'm sad. But that's okay. Like, they passed the 5-day plan, produced a 5-day plan, and they all three produced a, according to the LLM, something that had parts cultural, history, and the last one. And outdoors. Thank you. So there you have it, guys. Welcome to promptfoo. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to try to go into the attendance questionnaires here. All right. Would anyone be willing to, can you read any questions that are coming in through the meetup?
Only seeing a blank screen.
Oh. Of course.
Sorry, a bit late for that.
Like, of course, the remote people are not seeing anything. Okay. Well, I'm sorry, guys, remote. Like, we are not doing that. All right. Was there any other questions?
Well,
Yeah. Oh, temperature. Temperature is, so great question. What is temperature in the context of an LLM? So temperature is the degree in which you give the LLM freedom to form its own response, right? So when you put together the prompt, and I can showcase this right here, actually. So let's do this right now. Did I close up promptfoo? I think I did. So temperature allows the LLM to have more degrees of freedom and generate the response. So if you use temperature of 0, it should theoretically generate a very similar response all the time. If you change it up to like 1, every time you ask that question, it should have a different response. So in general, is it always the case? No. But like in general, a temperature allows it provides a degree of freedom in which the LLM can change the probabilistic approach to the next word that it provides, right?
Have you ever used Pilot?
Yes.
Well, you know, on Copilot, it has the creative, balanced, and precise selection when you try it and use it. I'm sorry, Microsoft Copilot.
Yeah, do you want the mic?
Yeah, so with like Microsoft Copilot, when you open up the window, you have a creative, balanced, or precise answer. And so that's 3 different settings for the temperature that you can select without it actually saying the word temperature.
Great answer. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Any more questions? You had another question?
So it focused on effectively the text of the prompt itself. If you were building a RAG type system where you're pulling something in and augmenting it, like a lot of the effectiveness will be down to the things you use to embed in prompt versus the prompt itself. Does it deal with like over different parameters of that, or?
So there's great question. Really great question. So in terms of the RAG solution, right? you're going to have a couple things that are going to be play. One is you're going to have your cosine similarity, right? So what does your vector base come back with? And that's going to be probability too, right? So I'm going to assume that your cosine similarity is going to be the same for all of these, right? And the answer to that is there is a case to be made within promptfoo for embeddings and for a reg solution. In fact, there is a use case of promptfoo that talks about that exact thing. And I don't know if you can see at home, but like eval and reg pipelines. So, and then evaluating the document retrieval process, right? So you have your call API, making sure the information that comes back, and then comparing your databases. Now you can actually do a test-driven approach to vector databases instead of, hey, which one's better? I don't know. No one really knows. But they claim to be better than each other. So anyway, great question. Thank you. And so again, this was meant to be a primer, not a deep dive. I know it's available. And if you want to do a deep dive talk after do a little bit of research, I would love to talk to you later about that. Okay. Any other questions?
Maybe testing about stereotypes.
Can I get?
Maybe not. What about maybe not functional tests, but maybe testing that you're not implementing stereotypes, maybe you're not saying something sexist or,
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So like maybe how do you gauge is my LLM coming up with things that are maybe not the greatest, right? So you might have a classification, but there's also we can look at faithfulness, relevance, and recall. There's also aspects further down here that say you're not getting the grade, say the defaults of promptfoo are not what you want. You want something a little bit more detailed in what you'd expect, right? So you can build your own grader. Instead of like depending on promptfoo's pass-fail grade, you can say, give me a grade of A to F on how sexist the response is, for example, or how belittling this response is from my Karen.ai application, right? So all of these things are now available, and you can this, and you can build your own as well. So great question, thank you. Did I answer what you're asking for? Or, other questions? This side of the room's been kind of quiet. No questions? All right. Well, team, I'm going to stop sharing. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for coming. I hope you learned something. The next meetup is going to be in July. I have a commitment in June that I need to take care of. Specifically, I'm defending my PhD. So thank you. So we're not going to be having a June session, but July we will be here for July. And please do what you do well and check Meetup and make sure and sign up for that. So thank you so much. And with that, I'm going to end the session. the streaming session.